We show up in Dallas and you're at like this, a major arena and everything is within one location. And then you go through a series of like obstacles and then you run up on a stage like you won the national championship.
The biggest indicator that I think we did the runs really well is that it was a very consistent pace throughout. We were always within like 20 seconds of
Is that right?
time. Yeah.
But see, that's also cool. So, they chip time you, right? Mm-hmm. And so they can
you get all the splits.
You get all the splits. All the things were just like clockwork, man. And it makes you wonder if CrossFit had just refined down what the events were, if they would have been as much clockwork, because they wouldn't have to keep reinventing the wheel.
It's honestly an event that's like built in a way where you're not going to get super beat up.
They're making it difficult, but difficult enough where it's exciting for the people that want to get a good time, but not so difficult that you can't do it. Welcome back to the podcast. Gabe Yanez and I, we are on for our post Hyrox breakdown, where him and I went to the great state of Texas and Dallas, and we competed in our first Hyrox competition. And if you don't know what Hyrox is, Gabe and I were going to go into like what it is and how it works and whatnot. But before we get there, so right now I'm recording. It's like 9 o'clock in the morning. It's not too early, but I got home pretty late last night from Dallas. And so I walk into my house. It's the middle of the night. And I go upstairs in my kid's bedroom and I go into Caden's room and he has this stick, we got it in Africa. It's like a battle stick. I think I've talked about it with you on the podcast before. He had it next to him in his bed. And then I go to my daughter and she had a baseball bat right next to her. I'm like, what the hell is going on here? So I haven't talked to him about it, but I thought that was a funny story. Like I get home and they have like their protective tools because dad's gone or something like that. But that's the way I found them, both asleep with their tools next to them. But anyways, good morning, Gabe.
Dude, when dad's not home, you got to fend for yourself over here.
It was just so funny.
Protector's not home.
There's like a baseball bat, a sledgehammer, and this tribal stick.
What was Ashley holding?
Oh, she has a gun.
There you go. Oh man, dude, what a weekend! I'm still buzzing, man. It was so fun. Oh man, I get it. It's funny because I was talking to a couple of my buddies. I was like texting them. None of them have done a Hyrox race. This is like my old group text friends from like back in the CrossFit days. Like we used to compete, train for the open, all that good stuff. And it's funny because one of my friends especially was like he's like, I don't get it. Like, am I missing something? Like everyone that does one seems to be like really into it. And he's like, it gives off like, what was the example he used? Not Spartan race, but he was like, it gives me like mud race like vibes, which like, if you remember, I feel like back when you were competing in CrossFit, like CrossFitters always like, you look down on the people that did obstacle racing. You were like, that's like the soft version of we do. I don't know if you remember that, but that was definitely at least the aura that I felt of like, if you were at a CrossFit gym and you were like really into like doing the CrossFit competitions or training for the open or maybe like trying to get on a regionals team. And then there were other people that like, did Spartan races and stuff like that. It was kind of like, I would never do that, which like is so dumb. But I'm just saying that that's kind of the way it was. Like those were always seen, like obstacle racing always seemed like a lesser, softer, whatever. And now I think that, and a lot of this I think is the perception people have of this stuff. Obviously, like if you're going out and competing and putting yourself out there, it doesn't matter what you're choosing to do. It's admirable that you're signing up for something, going out, training for it, and giving your best effort. Like that's what matters. But I think Hyrox has made it cool. Like they've given it this very, and they've done so many like little
just
things.
Little things, man. Little things.
I got an email. So they email you right after the race on Sunday to buy race pictures. And dude, I mean, this is probably more common. This is probably more common than, well, first what they do is when you register, you can pre-purchase the pictures for a discounted rate. So you're already paying for that.
Tactical Games did something similar to that too, which was helpful because you can't like be running around with the camera there,
Right.
It's much harder.
But the cool thing, because I mean, I remember, especially from, having an endurance background, like you're always like looking for the race picture. And I remember back in the day, spending like hours sifting through race pictures, trying to find yourself. Dude, now I took a selfie with my phone and then it pulled the 62 pictures that I was in.
No, how much was that?
And then you pay, it was $39 for all the pictures.
What?
And this is yeah, because they make it convenient for you to find your pictures. I took a selfie. It asked me to take a selfie. It was like dark. It was in the morning too. It wasn't even like the best selfie. I was like, I don't know how well this is going to work. And dude, it was so good that it even pulled up the pictures of other competitors when I was in the background. Like when we were, when we were just watching the races and like over the railing, like watching people do stuff.
Sure.
It pulled those pictures too.
No.
So you're even in the background and it got, yeah, dude, it was really impressive. Really, really impressive.
We should do that with, I should do that
man,
too.
They take good pictures. They make you look fucking cool. Whatever they do with like the lighting or whatever, like you look fucking jacked. And yeah, you're like, I want to buy those.
Well, let's take a step back for a second. So the way Hyrox works is, and I found out about this on the podcast. So basically Gabe signed up for one, and which we'll talk about him signing up for another one soon. But Gabe signed up for one, kind of convinced me very it didn't have to convince me too hard.
It didn't take much convincing.
It didn't take much convincing, right? Because I'm the guy who always prides himself on being down. Like if someone wants to go do something hard, like call me, I'll do it with you. And you can't just talk like that. You got to be able to back it up. And so when Gabe wanted to do it, it's like, dude, let's do it. So we show up in Dallas and you're at like this, a major arena. And everything is within one location. And the way they do this is that you start off with a run, and the run is like 2 to 3 laps, right? And it's 1,000 meters. Then you do a station, and the first station is a ski erg. Then you run again 2-3 laps, and then you have your next station, which is a sled pull. Then you run again, then sled push, or vice versa. Then you run again, and then you go through a series of like obstacles, for lack of a better term. And then the run station is always consistent, and you finish at the very end by going through like this tunnel, and then you do your wall balls, and then you run up on a stage like you won the national championship. Like that's the way they set it up. So they do a really good job of, I think, 3 things in particular. Number 1, it's very clear what the event is. Anybody watching is easily able to identify what the process is, right? And they can know how long it's taking you to get through that process. So like your family was there and it was easy for them to keep up with it.
Super easy.
While in addition, spectators are able to get like right there, not like kind of there, but right there. Whereas in CrossFit and other stuff where you have barbells flying around and things like that, there isn't really that at this event. So they make stations for visitors, like literally like your dad was like right in front of me when I was rowing. Like I was able to high five him. Like multiple times this happened. It wasn't like uncommon. And so I think that they make it super spectator friendly to easily understand what's happening, and they give you access. The second thing I think they do really well is that they keep the energy and the hype going with really good, solid music, and they make you feel like a badass by the way they like do the lighting and the staging, right? That's like, and the third thing is I think they've created an event that is like right on the cusp of like someone's like, okay, I'll do that factor. Meaning like it's right on the cusp. Like it's super hard, but it's like, okay, I could do that. Like I could, you know what I'm saying? Those are the things I think they're doing really well. Is like they're making it difficult, but difficult enough where it's exciting for the people that want to get a good time, but not so difficult that you can't do it, right? So that was kind of like my major takeaways. And the way that they like structured the way you get into the race, the way that like it was right on time, the way that, dude, all the things were just like clockwork, man. And it makes you wonder if CrossFit had just refined down what the events were, if they would have been as much clockwork, because they wouldn't have to keep reinventing the wheel. You know what I mean?
Yeah, man. I mean, we can go down so many different avenues of like, like from a business perspective, from an event running perspective, spectator perspective, but they're just doing a lot of things right, man. And it shows from the growth. And now we can speak to it from, a firsthand experience of like, as an athlete, things I care about, it running on time, like not being like a pain in the ass. And also I was talking to my buddies about this last night. Like one thing that I appreciated too is I have zero interest now really in signing up for or doing something that like is going to potentially injure me or like really bang me up, or like that stuff just isn't worth it for me anymore. And I think a big piece of it too, and granted we did the pro doubles version, so we're splitting up the work, but even if you were to do it singles, given the movement, given that it's pushing a sled, pulling a sled, skier, like yes, lunges might leave you a little sore. Like it's honestly an event that's like built in a way where you're not going to get super beat up. I think the likelihood of you like getting injured is not super high. Not that it's super high if you were to do like the average CrossFit competition, but there's something to be said about barbells and getting upside down in handstand push-ups and, getting up on a rig and doing, like potentially rip, like all of that stuff. They've just kind of like done away with it. And I think that for a long time, especially coming up in the CrossFit space, you almost thought that those things were necessary to have something that was challenging, to have something that was fun. And like, dude, it's not. Like
it was challenging. It was fun.
I had a blast. I had a really good time, man. I was like thoroughly enjoying us doing the event for those reasons, because everything ran on time, because like, I was definitely, dude, we were pushing hard, but like at no point was it just like to the point where it's like, why am I doing this? Like, why am I paying money to like literally like hurt myself? Like, sure, some people look at it and be like, why are you paying money to like go run laps around the
There
arena?
was one guy that held up a sign. Did you see that guy that held up a sign? I gave him a fist bump. It's like, you could have gone to therapy instead of doing this or something.
I've seen that at marathons.
I feel like that was kind of like one of those like memes, like, but dude, we had a conversation with the COO, right? Who came from a CrossFit background. If I'm not mistaken, he actually owned an affiliate.
That's right.
That's right. And he was saying that what they were looking for out of the events was also simple judging factors, which I do think was interesting. The wall ball was the only thing that there was definitely a gray area in terms of like depth. But aside from that, like the judging was simple. And he even brought it up. Like, we didn't want to put in things like box jumps because as people got tired, we don't want them to just be susceptible to that injury. It's just unnecessary as far as he was concerned. And some people in the hardcore CrossFit space would say that like they're missing out on areas of fitness. And I would agree with them. They're missing out on like heavy loading. They're missing out on a few factors. And that's fine, right? Like, but they're not claiming to do anything different. They're not testing for the fittest on earth. They're doing the Hyrox competition. You know what I mean? It's just different.
They're trying to put on a good experience, man. They're trying to, and the thing is like, what I appreciate, because I told you this, the day after we raced, I went to like the Dallas farmers market. We were just hanging out with the family before we drove back. And obviously a lot of people there, you could tell, had been there for the race and they were kind of doing the same thing. And I ended up talking to a bunch of people, like 3 or 4, but the commonality there was like, everyone was excited to do the next one. And I think that like, when you look at it too, from like a fitness perspective, like, people being consistent, training hard, everything that we're about, on this podcast and with the brand, I think that Hyrox is also doing a really good service to that, because people constantly, like, because it's such a positive experience, want to put the next one on the calendar, which is like a great motivating factor to then continue to train. Like, you pay $160 for your next registration. You're going to make a trip out of it. Maybe you're bringing your family. Like, you're not going to not go to the gym leading up to it, or at least you're less likely to, versus like, oh, I just need to train because training is important. It's very easy to be like, well, things are getting busy, versus, hey, I got Hyrox coming up. Like, I should probably get to the gym and, so I don't, whatever, make a fool of myself, don't get hurt, whatever. All good motivating factors to just keep people consistently working on their fitness. And I think that, that's what we want. And so that was cool to see.
Yeah. I mean, we can get into, so the body type that I saw most successful was like a taller, I don't want to use the word lengthy, but I'll use that term. In general, that was the type of body type that I saw be successful. I mean, there was guys clipping. I mean, they were running. I mean, who do you think that one dude was probably running like a 5-minute mile, you think?
So 3:30 per kilometer was the fast, like that's what the fast guys run. By the way, I looked at our running times. We were not running fast. Just an FYI.
Why are you going to bring that up on the podcast? I felt like we were, dude. So I thought we were running hella fast. So we were
running well for where we're at, for sure.
Yeah. Full disclosure. If you go on my YouTube, you will see episode 1 and 2 of Hyrox up on there. Gabe, did I lose you?
No, I'm still here.
Maybe I lost Gabe. We'll see if he comes back. But if you go on my YouTube, right, you'll be able to see episode 1 and episode 2 of our road to Hyrox. And that was a really, those are just videos like leading up to it. And the first video I was actually on, I got just absolutely destroyed. And so going into the second video, we met with Hinshaw, we worked on some pacing. So I didn't know what to expect going into this Hyrox event. And so the goal for me was really like, stay calm, stay collected, and not go too crazy. And that was the intention. I mean, you're going for an hour plus. Let's see if we got Gabe back. All right, and he's back. So I was talking about how the YouTube series we did, like the first video I messed up, second video we went with Hinshaw, third video or that's coming out was all about pacing and whatnot. And I think that was the toughest thing about Hyrox is that if you're coming from a CrossFit background. So by the way, I wanted to just make a point here. The 1 hour event for Hyrox, dude, it was great. The one thing I did love about CrossFit competitions, myself, is that there was a variety of events that you could like get fired up in different ways about. So like, I wonder if in the future, if Hyrox could have like, I don't think it's going to be possible, but it would be interesting to see if like they could do a multi-event day. But I mean, dude, they're running 60 people every like 20 minutes for 12 hours. So I don't know if it's gonna be possible, but that is one thing I liked about CrossFit. We're like, hey, you get ramped up. You got a Oli, you got a 1 rep max in the morning. You got a midday session. You got an evening session. That was one thing I did miss doing this competition. But one of the things I had to focus on for this particular competition is knowing that, dude, we were going to hit it for 60 minutes. And, how do you prepare for that mentally? How do you prepare for that physically? Like bringing goo with you, pacing it effectively. Like, so what were our runs?
So our fastest was like, I think we did a 4:30 at one point. I think that was our second run. Our second run was the fastest.
Dude, I think it's extra long, bro. I think it was extra long.
But this only counts the 1K around. I mean, maybe it was extra long, but let's assume that it's the right distance. That puts us at, average. If we were like 450 was kind of our average, that's a 7:47 per mile pace. That's what we were running per average, which again, like, I think we did great given our plan, given your strengths, given my strengths. I thought we communicated really well. I thought that, we went into it with a plan, but like I wasn't able to move the sled as well as you were. So being able to pivot on the spot and having no issue with like you taking a little bit more than planned, me taking a little bit more than planned on stuff like the burpees, like also like I was planning to do like finish out the lunges at one point, but I was just like, as soon as I started slowing down, I was like, hey, Jade, just take a little bit. Like, I think we communicated well and made transitions when we were supposed to transition. And honestly, dude, the runs, the biggest indicator that I think we did the runs really well is that it was a very consistent pace throughout. What would have been a red flag is like, we had like a 4-minute K at one point, and then we blew up to like a 5:30. We were always within like 20 seconds of.
Is that right?
Time. Yeah.
But see, that's also cool. So, they chip time you, right? Mm-hmm. And so they can
you get all the splits.
You get all the splits, and like they make it so easy. I mean, bro, think about that technology they're incorporating. They're incorporating facial recognition for pictures. So like they're not having like, I mean, that's easy. Number one, because like at tactical games, they had a bib number. But like, bro, facial recognition, genius. I mean, assuming like, let's not go off like all these issues about
a Black Mirror tangent about face recognition. Yeah,
about facial recognition. And then the other thing is obviously the chip timer. So you're able to know, and there's so just a point of clarification. I think it's important for Hyrox. There isn't necessarily judges for each individual for each thing. Now, let me explain. When you get on the rower, you're just kind of rowing and you raise your hand and then a judge comes over and like lets you go. But there was a lot of groups that like the judge didn't really come over and they just hit 1,000. They just left. Like it was like, it's kind of like an unwritten rule. Like just don't be a dick. Don't stop at 600. It's not going to help anybody, right? Like you're there for yourself. You're not there to win money. But technically you had a judge that did that. The sled was like pretty self-explanatory. It was 4, traverses. But again, there was no real judge on it. So you could have done 2 and left. But
no, because they said that even that they track the chip. So he said that even that you can't, because they're counting how many times your chip crosses, and it should cross 4 times. He said that there used to be, whether intentional or unintentional, people would cut it short. but now you can't, and they'll add a penalty.
That's right. Okay. So, there was that. The wall ball there was the only place where was an actual judge counting your reps. And everywhere else, though, like, for example, the farmer's carry, like, it's pretty straightforward. But there was a lot of like, it did require as a participant to be aware of the flow of events. Like, you have to go in there and be aware of like, what are the rules and how do I enter and exit? And they do a really good job explaining it, but you have to be aware of it throughout the event. Like, where you go in and where you go out could be confusing middle of event unless you're like actually paying attention. So like some stuff like that definitely comes into play, but they do the best they can to structure it in a way that just like keeps all the energy right and keeps people moving.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyone listening, and I'm assuming some people are, because I know a lot of people that, listen to the podcast were there at this specific event racing, which was awesome, by the way. One of my favorite things about the weekend was how many people we met at the Train Hard Men's Club and at the race that loved the podcast, listened to it. Like, one guy specifically said that like us talking on the podcast about doing this race and training for this race, like, was the thing that he was like, fuck it, I'm going to do it. Signed up, trained for it, got back into running because of it. And now is like, super into it. Might get his wife to do the next one. So that kind of stuff is just like,
but that's one of the big reasons why we do this stuff.
For sure. So, but to hear it, because I know that I like, in the back of my head, I know that people listen to the show, enjoy it. And I'd like to think that it helps motivate people to do these things. But then to actually meet someone that says, without us, asking them or prompting anything, hey, this is why I'm here. This is why I trained for this, and saying thank you. Like, no, thank you. That like makes my weekend and gets me so excited to like get back on the podcast and record, because it feels real. So that was cool. But for anyone listening that's done a Hyrox and is kind of familiar with these numbers, we were running 440 to like 5 minutes was only one run. It was our slowest. We were more like 440, 450.
It was an extra long course, though, just for clarity.
But these top guys, they were saying run like 330s, and that's a 541 mile pace. So that's what they're keeping for that whole race, including the station. So that's freaking quick, man. That's impressive.
Well, Will and his partner in co-ed doubles.
Yeah,
bro, they got 50. What did they get? 59 or 57. So we got 107, and I just don't see how you shave 10 minutes off that other than just running hella fast.
So in the mixed doubles times, from my understanding on, watching a couple of videos, reading some stuff, because of course now I've gone down a deep Hyrox rabbit hole. And we can talk about that in a little bit. The mixed doubles tend to be fast times because you do it with the pro women's weights. So the men are usually fit men that can then, like, imagine if that sled were the lighter version of the sled.
Yeah,
you
could just
have
really
the guy. So if you have a female in the mixed doubles that's a really good runner, which Christy Ramos, who he partnered up with, is a really good runner, dude. She runs, like I saw on her Instagram, she runs a 30. It was like a low 6 minute per mile pace for a 10K, like super fast. She's like a legit runner. And then you have a guy that's a good runner and pretty strong. You could do a really good time because the guy is going to be using some pretty light weights, and, your female partner can, just run really fast, which is going to be the limiting factor. So yeah, shout out to them. I mean, that was awesome. 107, I thought was super respectable for us, especially given where we were at with a run pace. And if you look at the placings at our stations,
I told you I wanted to go sub 60, right? It just like sounded good. So I'm looking at my
7
clock.
minutes off.
So I watch the watch as we go, and I'm like, we're like halfway done. I look at my watch. I'm like, we get like 3/4 of the way down. I'm like, I'm like, oh, bro, that is fast. Like, I thought we were cooking. And when we got to like station 6 or 7, I'm like, there's no way we're going sub 1 hour. And, it just really puts in perspective the levels of the game,
Oh, for sure, man. But what I was going to say is there was this one duo that we kept seeing on the course, right?
with the chain, with the shirt off and the chain, right?
It was driving me nuts because they would pass us on every run, because on the stations, we would pass them. Like, we would do so well on the stations, but on the run, they would just pass us every time. But I think we ended up finishing in front of them because of the wall balls.
Yeah, we made moves on the stations for sure. As a team, we made moves.
Dude, the funny part too, just remembering the races, is I had a scare on the burpees, man. I thought I fucked up, because I was like, all right, like the runs, little bit easier for me, a little tougher for you. So I'm going to take some chances on the stations. And that worked out great on the ski erg, which was station 1. I wasn't able to actually do that on the sled. I didn't quote unquote take a chance. You actually had to do more work than I did on the sleds because you can move it really well. So then station 4 comes and it's burpees. So you think about it, like in my head, I'm like, shit, like our plan was that I was going to really help out on the stations because I'm recovering on the run. I haven't done that so far. Like there's that kind of like team member guilt.
And we're already 3K. We're already 3K in at this point.
Right. We're 3K in.
Yeah.
I'm feeling really good because I didn't do too much of the sled. Running your pace on the run. So I'm like, dude, I'm good. Like I'm going to help us out on the burpees. Like you rest a little bit on the burpees. I'm going to help us out. And dude, we got to the burpees and I like let it rip. Dude.
It's a burpee broad jump for how far was it? 80 yards? 80 meters. But dude, for people listening, I thought like, oh, burpee broad jump, 80 meters, not a big deal.
It's
because
the longest 80 meters ever.
It's because you're not allowed to put your hands in front of like where you land. So like when you land, your hands have to go where your feet are. So you can't like reach out and like, if that makes sense, you can't like cheat the burpee, like where you land, your feet, your hands. So you basically like are starting and finishing however far you jump is basically it.
That's right. Which makes sense. But honestly, like when the guy explained the rule to us, it made it a lot harder than any burpee broad jump I've practiced. And I haven't practiced a lot, but like, I guarantee you, if you're not familiar with this rule and right now I were to tell you like burpee broad jump 10 meters, you would not follow the rule that we're saying because it's almost weird. It's weird.
It's almost, it's non-intuitive because instead of reaching down into a push-up position, you have to reach down and then kick your feet back almost like you're getting into a plank.
Right. It's like if you were to do a quote unquote strict burpee, it's almost like that. Yeah. You don't have to do a strict push-up, but that's kind of what they expect from you with the hand positioning. So dude, we get to the burpee station and I'm like, I got to make up for what I didn't do on the sled. So I go so hard. I do I think entire first length. Then you did a little bit of the second length.
Yeah. I think I did 7 burpees.
Yeah. And then I finished out the length. And dude, we start jogging out of that burpee station and I was hurting really bad. Like really bad. And there was a point where we left. You're like, that was good. I got the reset. And we left the outshoot. And dude, you started pulling away from me. And I'm hauling. I'm like, my heart rate is probably like 185. And I'm like, I'm panicking. And you start pulling away. And the last thing I wanted to do is be like, like, Jay, wait up or whatever. Cause I was like, dude, that's bad news. If I'm the one asking us to slow down on the run, like that's fucked up. Luckily, by the time we got to the corner, I had recovered at least enough to keep up with you. And then a lap into it, I was back in like a good place. But that was a one moment in the race where I was like, dude, I think I went too hard and the wheels came off. But we were able to recover. And then what was 5 after that? And then 5 after that was the row, which was our best station. Interestingly.
Yeah, we smashed the row. But that's a testament. If you look at the podcast show notes, if you're looking for training programs, Gabe and I, we use our training programs to prepare for things like this. And it's a good example of how you could use our programs and be physically capable to do things like this. The likelihood of you not being able to keep up with your kids is basically 0, right? Like if you can go run and do these kind of things, if you follow our programs, you're going to be good to go there. I thought what was interesting is that before the race, I definitely had some like throwback moments to the 2013 Burden Run. So in the 2013 Burden Run, Hinshaw taught us this technique where like you go out in front of the group, you act like you're stretching and whatever. And then with 10 seconds before the gun starts, you just take front spot. So like because normally you line up and there's like a bunch of people that want the top spot. Instead, you just walk out in front, you pretend like you're stretching. Like no one really thinks of you as a threat. Like it's no big deal. You're just kind of like warming up. And then right before, 10 seconds, you run, and you're just like, hey, it's cool. And you get right in the front. And so we worked that technique on the track multiple times leading up into the CrossFit Games, where we worked on warm up, 10 seconds. And you just walk up, you kind of like tap someone on the shoulder, like, hey, bro, it's cool. And by that time, they can't react to you because it's like 2, 1, go. And then boom, you have your inside position. Kind of reminded me a little bit of that at the tactical gate or at Hyrox, because like we were kind of in the back and like I didn't want to be that guy, right? Because I knew I wasn't going to be running as fast as some other people. But then we had a camera, we had Cage there, and like somehow we ended up making it to the front. And I just remember I walked by this guy, and there was quite a few people that kind of knew who we were or whatever. And I was like, hey, bro, look, I'm just trying to get in the front so we can get some good video, or whatever. Like, it just, you know what I meant. Like, it was just like, the vibes were right, but I didn't want people to look like we were trying to be like, oh, it's cool, it's cool, it's cool. Like,
it's especially funny because, like, yeah, to your point, everyone, and honestly, like, I would say that 3/4 of the people that came out super hot, we ended up beating anyway. So it wasn't like, yes, people ran faster than us, but they ran faster than us in that first lap because a lot of people came out hot. And then also we were just a lot better at the stations, that it made up for even the fact that they were better runners than us potentially. But yeah, like, we weren't going to run the fastest first lap. So we didn't want to be like, hey, we're going to be in the front and then just get passed by everyone.
Right.
But to your point, like, we did want to get some good footage. So we kind of wanted to work to the front. So it was funny because it was this weird, like, and you got away with it because a lot of people know you, which is also funny on the race course. I told you this, it was funny because, like, we were running and a bunch of people recognized you as we were running. So we would get a lot of, you would get a lot of shout outs of like, Jason Khalipa, like, let's go, Jason. And we're doing this as a team. We're wearing exactly the same thing, but obviously people don't know me, don't know my name. So I'm like, I'm here too, like, don't worry about it. I don't need any cheering. I don't need any support.
It was funny, like, because we're in that shoot, right? We're in that shoot, and like, it was pretty cool. Like, for me,
one of the things they do so well, like, that shoot felt just like it was like a cool experience.
The shoot was cool. They put you like underneath, like, essentially, like, it's like a blow up tunnel, and there was quite a few people in there that it made me feel really good because there was quite a few people who came up and was like, hey man, like, listen to the podcast, been following you for years, and love to see you out here. Whatever. It was just like all good vibes, good energy.
All good vibes.
And then the lady who's like running the show, she's like, all right, breathe in good energy, breathe out the bad shit. And like, she like basically took like a group of like, I don't know, 60 guys through like some breathing stuff and like totally commanded the room. Like, totally she did a great job. But she like really level set it, like, bro, like, go out there, have some fun, leave all your shit behind, and like, just be cool. And on that race, you have hundreds of people on this course. And I would say in general, everybody was cool. Like, it was a very just good energy, even running. Cause you could see how like some people would slow and, kind of get upset. They have to like go around people and whatnot. But it really wasn't like that. It was really positive.
At least we didn't see any of it. And I hope it stays that way. Some of this is unfortunate as like, the sport grows and people get super caught up in like, am I going to qualify for worlds? Like, I hope that this doesn't happen, but I also wouldn't be surprised if just like with time, you do get the inevitable, like, shit that you see at CrossFit competitions now of like, dude, don't get mad at your fucking judge. Like, don't like, like complain that like someone was in your way. Like, dude, you're there to have fun. Even if you're trying to like qualify, like, this isn't going to make or break, and unless you're like the elite of the elite, this isn't going to make or break like, your livelihood or whatever. Like, just go out there and have fun, man. So I hope that doesn't change. But yes, I agree. But I do think that some of that, maybe to an extent, is inevitable with time. I hope it isn't. But
yeah, I hope not either. But I think if you're interested in competing, one of the things that we're talking about here at Train Hard is in 2025, everyone who listens to this podcast needs to sign up for something. Like,
you got
everybody sign up for something. We are not here to tell you, maybe we will in the future, like tell you, of course, we're going to tell you what we sign up for and maybe encourage certain things for certain reasons. But like, I'm not a believer in like telling anyone what they should be like passionate about and excited about.
Of course not.
As long as they're doing something, right? And that could be climbing a mountain. That could be doing a 10K. That could be doing turkey trot. That you can name the thing, but I'm confident that if everyone signs up for something, it just puts it on the calendar, man. And like, think about what it represents to your children. Think about what it represents to them to know that dad is out there doing the thing and being the guy who's training hard for something. And sure, like, are we winning money and prizes? No. We ended up taking 22nd out of 82 teams, so not bad. But it's the fact that like growing up, the kids just know that, hey, like competition is a part of life, and not because you're trying to necessarily at this stage of my journey, like crush some other dude. It's because I'm trying to beat my previous self. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to show up and be the guy who now, like, dude, I built a ton of confidence by doing that Hyrox. Our walkthrough was really, really bad. And this time was like, as far as I was concerned, like pretty smooth. I think I personally, I hit it just right. And that's cool. That's confidence I'm going to have going into all these other things I want to do in this year.
Yeah. I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. There's not really too much I can add to that. I'm really excited to take what we do here at Train Hard and encourage people, like you said, to put themselves out there. I think that there's something about signing up for something and going to compete that everyone is naturally going to be uncomfortable with. Like I'm excited to do this next Hyrox race. Like I got bit by the bug. I'm excited to do it. But on the flip side of that, there's definitely some like there's nerves, there's pressure, you set goals to do something. And I think that every now and then that's like super important, super healthy, because there's an age where that naturally stops happening. Like you stop playing high school sports, you stop playing college sports, you stop having things that like, you kind of have to go out there and really perform in front of people. And there's so much good that like is built into that. And, for some people that could still be the CrossFit Games Open. And that's awesome. Like that could be the thing. That's a great option that I know we did and we had communities rally around. But what I love that you said and that we're really trying to put in the forefront is that like, who are we to tell you what that should be? It could be the CrossFit Games, could be a BJJ tournament, could be hiking the Appalachian Trail, could be whatever. If it's physical and you're signing up for it, you're putting your money where your mouth is, and then you're going out there and doing the thing, even if you come short, there's just so much good to that. And then we have the training programs to prepare you to get you there. Some more specifically than others. But again, the beauty in what we do with stuff like Force is that you can follow that training program on our app and you will be 95% of the way there to any of these things. You'll be capable enough to hike the Appalachian Trail, to obviously, if you roll BJJ and have that skill, go and perform and be fit enough to do that. So that's the beauty of it, is like, hopefully we can inspire with the message and then back it up with the tools. I know we can back it up with the tools. Hopefully we can inspire with the message.
Yeah. I mean, think about it this way. If you're a dad listening to this podcast right now, or a mom, and you're like, okay, ask yourself this question. Do you like your children competing? Do you think that there's value in them competing? And do you think they learn something about themselves? Do you think they learn about hard work? Do they learn about all the things? Name all the things. Well, then why are all of a sudden, when we get to become adults, we stop that, right? Because it's a continuous journey. In every competition I've ever done, and I've competed many times in many things, I've always learned something. In Hyrox, I learned confidence. I learned to run better. I learned to pace. I learned to have a partner. I learned, name the thing, right? And I think that as soon as we stop growing and stop learning, what are we doing? And so I think setting up these competitions are just like little benchmarks along that journey. And again, you find what that is for you. But I would encourage it to be something a little bit outside your comfort zone, a little bit. And not something that's just like a walk in the park. Like Gabe going and signing up for a 10K and just like doing it with his family. That's not what I mean. Like that's more of like him just having fun. I'm saying if he signs up for a 10K and tries to set a personal best, that's different, right? So think about something that pushes you out of your comfort zone, and then use our programs to help you train for it. And then next year, we'll definitely stay in touch with everything else we want to do here at Train Hard. I mean, myself in particular, I'm going to do a jiu-jitsu tournament, a hybrid, a Hyrox, and a tactical games. That's what I'm doing already. I don't know what else I'm going to do.
Yeah, man. And I have the marathon in January. That's a huge goal. Sub 3 hours is still something that like, man, it's going to take a good day and continuing to do the work for the next 2 months to get there. But I'm excited for it. And then I just signed up for Hyrox Houston, which I'm going to do as an individual. So that'll be interesting because now no splitting up the work, no one to help me with the heavy sled. Yes, I'll have the run to kind of like let it loose a little bit because I've been running a little bit, but it's going to be a really interesting balance because I think I know a reason I was quote unquote able to hit the stations as hard as I was for relative to me, because I mean, if me and you race a 1K row, 1K ski, any of those things, like you would manhandle me. But a big part of it was that I came into those stations in a much different place. It'll be interesting to see once I'm running at a faster pace, what that looks like. And then the other note about Hyrox, and I was very flattered by this and I thought you'd appreciate it. One of the guys, so he got 17th and 4th in his age group in the 25 to 29, young guy. He reached out to me on Instagram and was like, do you have any interest in doing pro doubles? So I was like, oh my God, Me.
Fuck that guy. What's he doing? Why is he trying to take my partner?
So that was cool. I don't know. So apparently people do sometimes, if the heats are separate enough, will compete in 2 races. That's actually a common thing. So Houston is a 2-day event. Granted, both of the categories are in the same day, but some people do like the individual pro on Saturday and they'll do like the mixed doubles on Sunday because they're separate days. That's actually something that some of the higher end guys is pretty common. But he asked me if I had any interest. I thought that was pretty cool. I must be doing something right.
Dude, shout out to you for doing that and carrying the water on this last Hyrox. I'm super excited for Houston. I'm super excited for your 3-hour marathon. Going through what we just did for an hour really puts things in perspective for 3 hours. I mean, dude, an hour felt pretty long, and you're trying to go 3 hours. Like, that's a long ass time. So, bro, keep doing you. And that's kind of like a basic wrap on Hyrox. We will definitely be talking about it again on the podcast. I also want to talk about the men's club. We had a cool men's club meetup and kind of some of the stuff that we're doing in terms of that. And, Dallas treated us well for sure. Shout out to Hyrox for making us feel comfortable. Their team was great, very professionally run event. And, I would encourage people that if you come from a CrossFit background, just be open-minded to it. And if you come from a Hyrox background, be open-minded to CrossFit stuff, dude. I mean, it's all good, man. It's just people doing hard shit, and it's great. And Gabe is going to leave me for this other Instagram guy as a Hyrox partner. I am not going to be doing one individually. I will be doing one with a partner. Maybe I'm trying to convince Dennis to do it with me. Maybe I'll do it with him.
That would be fucking awesome. Just 2 behemoths crushing a run. I'd watch that happily. No, I don't think I have any interest yet in like trying to do 2 races in one weekend, but I just thought I'd share that with you. That's cool. Next time I do it pro doubles, it's going to be with Jason again because we're going to beat our fucking time and crush it.
We got to beat our time. We have to. That's the best part about it. Yeah, man. Woo. All right. Well, hey guys, appreciate you guys checking out the podcast. Make sure to check out the podcast show notes for a link to our training programs, to a link to our newsletter. And if you enjoy the podcast, as per usual, leave it a rating, leave a review, share it with a friend, let someone know what we have going on so that they could jump on the path with us and keep training hard. Let's go.